I wish the conversation you're about to listen to had been available for me years ago. Not because I like to hear myself speak. Conversations like this could have helped me navigate some of the challenges my wife and I faced in our adoption journey. I say conversation because this episode didn't feel like an interview. It was two friends talking about the stuff they've been dealing with, and you get to be a fly on the wall while they share their stories and struggles. I usually end these episodes with a daily doable, but today I'm going to begin with it. Your daily doable is to listen. Really listen to this conversation and allow it to take you wherever it does, even if that place makes you feel uncomfortable. Hope and healing are on the way.
We've talked about nature versus nurture, but so we can have, this is a lot of adoptive parents struggle with this, is I'm giving everything I have, the caring, the loving, the empathy, the support to my child. Why do they constantly, I feel like they're keeping me at a distance? Why is there some type of imaginary wall there? And that wall, that imaginary wall is the survivor mode in the child.
Did you finally realize your dream of having a family, only to have your happily ever after turn into a nightmare? Are you constantly second-guessing your parenting, anxious about whether your child will make good choices and remain faithful? Have you neglected yourself to the point that it's taken a personal toll on you? Hi neighbor, welcome to Anchors of Encouragement. I'm Tim Maudlin, husband, adoptive parent, disciple of Christ, and ambassador of encouragement. I too felt the joy of having a family of my own, and I wish we could be like other families. But I found myself up late at night, anxious about my child's future and asking myself, why is this happening? Am I a failure as a parent? It was only by grabbing a lifeline from God and my friends that I was able to navigate the challenges of adoptive life. And now I can't wait to share everything I've learned with you. My mission is to be your friend and encourager, to throw adoptive parents a lifeline and offer biblical encouragement as you partner with Christ, providing stability as your anchor when you need it the most. If you're ready for real and raw talk with strategies and insights that lead to peace beyond comprehension, so you not only survive but thrive in life's storms, this podcast is for you. Hope and healing are on the way. Hi neighbor, joining me today is my neighbor from Alabama, Erich Nelson. You might remember Erich from episode 53. Erich is a friend of the family. He was one of the individuals who was instrumental in my son Johnny completing his time in residential several years ago now. Erich is joining us today to talk about a topic that I'm quite curious to see how he's going to explain it, but I think it's important for all of us. Erich is the founder of the Do Life Big project. Erich engages in teaching and coaching on a range of impactful topics. These include the big lie, how society's relationship with success and failure is damaging our children, goal setting made easy, de-escalation by means of empowerment, and compassion fatigue. Through these endeavors, he continues to empower individuals and organizations to achieve their full potential. Erich embodies a deep commitment to mental health advocacy, always seeking to positively impact individuals fighting their fight. By blending passion, expertise, and a nurturing spirit, he continues to be a driving force in challenging core beliefs and empowering those he encounters to do life big. Erich, it's so good to have you here today. Before we let you talk, I wanted to say this. To this day, the impact you made on my son Johnny is quite evident. And even though I know you had some difficult conversations with him during his time in residential and afterwards, he still to this day respects you. And so thank you for being a positive influence in his life.
Well, Tim, thank you. That certainly means a lot. I think you know me well enough. I like to laugh. I try not to laugh in inappropriate times. I'm working on it. I'm a grown up now, but inside I was laughing when you said difficult conversations, and yeah, I'm the king of difficult conversations, but I appreciate that. Your entire family has been very near and dear to me and my colleagues and my friends. So I thank you as well.
The topic we're going to talk about today, and I asked you for some suggestions, and because you're in this space and understand, what families like mine have gone through with adoption trauma and this journey that can be frankly challenging. You have this idea of being stuck in survivor mode and how that can keep us from truly thriving in life. And so I'm curious about how you're going to explain this to us because there are times where I felt like I've been stuck in survivor mode, the families, the
Yeah.
kids, whatever. So as we get into this conversation, what do you mean when you say survivor mindset?
Yeah, and it's interesting you said that, Tim, but as far as families, but then also the kids, I think both apply, right, to the topic. And it really started out originally with the kids and the idea of being adopted and the idea of early childhood trauma, right? And the understanding that of trauma at its basic level of, how it can affect brain development, how it can affect developing cognitively, emotionally, and so on. It's been this big tornado whirlwind of thoughts and ideas. So, as you know, I also coach. I've been a coach of some type of sport or sports for 30 years, whether it be football, baseball, volleyball. My wife and I coach a club volleyball team. And let me tell you something, if you haven't tried to coach some teenage girls, that'll change you. So it started with the idea of a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And so I want to go backwards, right? And so a fixed mindset is I can never get better. I am who I am. There's just no change in it. Just because this person over here, they can do all of these great things. Well, that's them. I'm me. And then the growth mindset is, well, holy cow, I can see that person over there doing these things. Huh. Well, if they can do it, I can do it. Right. And so if I could just kind of lay the foundation there and then go backwards. And so I've been fascinated for years and years and years on how do we end up with a fixed versus a growth mindset. Now, we can talk about sports, but, now transitioning into my obviously experience and over the years working with at-risk youth is where does that start? And the connection that I've made in the research and just all of the kids that I've worked with and the families is going back to the basics of survival and how the brain works in survivor mode. Now, survival is a great thing, right? It's necessary. It's our limbic system in the brain. It's the lizard brain, right? It's the cavemen or cave women way back when we
Mhm.
hear them say all the time the good old amygdala and the hippocampus and I'm trying to not get killed by dinosaurs. And however, like you want to describe it, but it's a thing, right? Our brain is designed at its core, at the cellular level, to keep us alive. And part of keeping us alive is to avoid pain, physical,
Mhm.
emotional. Part of surviving is to stay out of dangerous places. And so, at its core, when we talk about trauma and early childhood trauma, well, our brain clicks into survival mode, and I liken it to pain avoidance, right? And of course, you know me, Tim. I jump around a lot, but you're good at sticking with me. But one analogy I used to use at the program, and I actually used with Johnny a lot, though, is we know what physical pain is. It's right. I can
Mhm.
pinch you on the arm and say, Tim, where are you hurting? Well, I'm hurting on my arm because you're pinching me. Okay. But man, that emotional pain, right? We know we're hurting at the core, but
Mhm.
especially with kids, if someone said, well, where are you hurting? What's hurting? I don't know. I just know I'm hurt. And so therein lies trauma, right? And so if we're talking about kids and adopted kids, I mean, we make the connection of the early trauma of abandonment, right? The
Mhm.
pain of what's wrong with me? Why did my parents not want me? There's got to be something wrong with me. All the way to, you can talk about separation and, just the lack of nurture at even in the womb to you can go down the list.
Mhm.
So saying all of that, our brain and the kids is wired to not feel that pain or to go into survivor mode. right? And so if I can liken it to a physical to the emotional, physical survival mode, fight, flight, freeze. Now I think they've come out with fawn. Are you familiar with the good old term fawn?
No, no. Educate me
Uh,
on this, please.
I was just educated. This is great. Fawning, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fawn is described as when a person goes and uses a behavior. I call it good old brown nosing, right? Oh, like let's say that, I feel a sense of anxiety or a sense of fear, whatever it is with you,
Mhm.
Tim. And I go, gosh, Mr. Tim, that's a incredibly great looking blue shirt you have on. And have I told you how wonderful your podcast is? And I just can't think of any other podcast that anyone should ever listen to in the history of the world. And you know what I mean? So, and it's so, and that behavior falls into put things in a positive. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It
perfect.
decreases the danger. And
I'm gonna
so,
save this clip to promote my podcast too.
oh yeah, there you go.
I
That's
just
it. Please do. That would be spectacular. If you don't listen to, um, so physically to survive, right, we're going to avoid, right? Let's go back. I do like, for me, using a caveman, metaphor, or it works for me, is because I can visualize going out and coming out into the world, and man, I am on the prowl. I'm looking for anything and everything that could harm me, be of danger. And so I'm constantly in that survival mode. The amygdala, so to speak, is just firing at all cylinders, bam, 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 bam. Well, trauma works the exact same way. So if you can visualize someone that has dealt with trauma, let's talk about adopted kids, right? They're dealing with the trauma of abandonment. Let's just use that. They're constantly on survival mode, go mode. I've got to make sure that I'm okay. That can look like, right? We've talked about nature versus nurture, but so we can have, this is a lot of adoptive parents struggle with this, is I'm giving everything I have, the caring, the loving, the empathy, the support to my child. Why do they constantly, I feel like they're keeping me at a distance? Why is there some type of imaginary wall
Mhm.
there? And that wall, that imaginary wall, is the survivor mode in the child, right?
Mhm.
I can't let this person in close. Why would I trust this person when the two people that were designed to care for me abandoned me? Just freaking got rid of me.
Mhm.
This is obviously, we're in the emotional side. Logic does not come into play at all, right? I think we know that. But
Mhm.
and so that's the survival mode, is in constant, I'm not going to give of myself any more than I have to, because this could be very, very dangerous. It's been dangerous before, and man, it's not going to happen again. These people aren't going to leave me
Mhm.
again. Why would I possibly do that? And so for me, that's the version of survivor mode when it comes to trauma. And like I said, going back, survival is a much needed thing, but I think then we get caught up in society of, being a survivor. It's God, man, it's just catch 22, right? People celebrate survivors, right? And
Mhm.
that's good. We should, surviving is good. But man, there's more to surviving, right?
Right.
Right? That's the thing. That's why I started the Do Life Big project. The Do Life Big project was founded based off of God designed us. He didn't design us to live small, man. He didn't. I mean, his kingdom is so vast, and everything that God has to offer. Do you think he designed us to go out and to talk small? Like, hey,
Mhm.
let me tell you about this God. God, no.
Mhm.
Let me tell you about Jesus. No, he wants people that talk big. He wants people living big, and you can't live big and you can't do your big unless you figure out how to get past your survival mode and get into a thriving mode. And so that's where that all started. And to me, the survivor versus thriver falls right into the idea and the concept of, okay, cool. Hey, I've made it this far. Thank God I have survived. Now what do I need to do more than just survive?
Okay. That makes a lot of sense how you've explained it. And the way you phrase it too is being stuck in survivor mode. If a person, and I believe you would agree this, you can tell me if you don't, but chooses to stay stuck, what are the implications for that person as far as is it a matter of they're suppressing themselves, suppressing feelings, emotions, and what will happen eventually if they stay stuck?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And so the first phrase that comes to mind when you ask that question, and I've asked myself that question, is victimhood. Is victimhood, right? You
Okay.
can be a survivor and you can be surviving, but you get stuck in being a victim, right?
Hmm.
Well, so and so did this, or oh well, I'm never going to be this because, and so I believe there's a distinct connection between being stuck in a survivor mindset and being stuck in a victim mentality.
Okay.
We can find excuses of why. For me, a victim mentality is it's not taking full accountability and responsibility for yourself and for your feelings, for your emotions and how you deal with things.
Hmm.
And it's so easy because, especially, think about this. Let's put it this way. It's even down to wording in society. So let's say that we have a young man, 19 years old. He was adopted at a young age, raised by incredible parents, up and down. Things were, trouble here and there, but we've made it to 19, right? The message a lot of times to that 19-year-old is, "Phew, but look at all that you've gone through. I'm so proud that you've made it to this point. Look at you. You've got a steady job. Look at everything that you've gone through. Your biological parents just totally pushed you to the side and this, that, and the other. And look how far you've come." Now, that's a great statement. No, that's great to motivate somebody. But the problem is we get stuck right there. There's no after. If you want to give someone a compliment, hey, whew, you've been through a lot. Man, you've been through a lot. Super proud of you, super impressed. Hey, what's next? What's the
Hmm.
next step? What's big on the horizon for you?
Hmm.
Right? How do you get past I've made it to now to what does 5 years from now look like? Right?
Hmm.
What's your big plans? What's your goals? What's your dreams? See, victims don't dream. Victim mentality, they don't dream. Dreaming is done because there's no hope. Because in a victim mentality, you are at the will or the whim of other people, of other situations. There's limited hope. There's zero dreaming. That's the thing that I guess I'm on some, I want to spend the rest of my days is trying to show people or encourage people or inspire people or empower people to get to dreaming again.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah. How do you go about flipping the narrative? I mean, you talk about dreaming big.
Yep.
It's one thing to say that, and I love the
Yep.
concept of the Do Life Big project, but how do you get to that mindset where you can escape that? Because you're trying to escape, you need to escape it. And so
Yeah.
how do you go about doing that?
So for me, Tim, and this is my own personal, man, this is now kind of going into my personal experience, right? You
Hmm.
know, I, not to spend too much time, but, I had heart surgery in 2020, right at COVID, then ended up getting COVID at the end of 2020, almost killed me. I was in the hospital for a month. Things got rough. And
Hmm.
so I speak from personal experience. You talking about being in survivor mode for like 2 years after, just in recovery and stuck in that, man, just another day. If I can just get another day in, um, to answer your question, it takes prayer.
Hmm.
But it takes prayer. It takes understanding that you are not in control, that you were designed and put on this earth for bigger things. I ask people this question when I talk about the Do Life Big project. And I ask people, what's your big? It's a weird question, right? But I'm like, what's your big?
Hmm.
And a lot of people think I'm thinking grandiose, I want to start a multi-million-dollar company. I want to be a million. No, no, no. It's your big. What's your big? I've had answers. A buddy of mine, this was 3 years ago. His big was he wanted to start his own business. He'd been thinking about it for years. See, he had been stuck in survival mode, right?
Hmm.
His survival mode, please bear with me, is show up 9 to 5, ho hum. I'm not challenged. I'm in my comfort zone, right? I'm
You're playing it
safe.
safe. Yeah,
There you
playing it
go,
safe.
right?
Okay.
There's a reason why they say playing it safe. What is the opposite of safe is dangerous, and then dangerous leads to fight, flight, fear, fawn.
Hmm.
So he started his own business, just went for it, man. And it's thriving. But what's thriving is sure there's financial implications, but then it's how does he feel? He feels fulfilled, right? He feels fulfilled as a father, as a husband, as a business owner, as a member of the community. And that's a
Hmm.
bigger example. I had another fella said his big was he realized that he was not present in his relationship with his wife. Wasn't present, whether it's the phone, whether it's the watching each other's mouths move right in a conversation instead of,
Hmm.
and he said, my big is I want to, and they started going on a date night. They were on the brink of, I don't want to say divorce, but things weren't looking good. And he committed and was intentional about a date night every, the smallest thing, just to get together and being intentional about being present with his wife.
Hmm.
And that's pretty cool. You know, I just talked to him last week and it wasn't me, but he thanked me for the idea and the challenge of changing his mindset. But he's like, look, we're in a bad spot,
Hmm.
and so to me that's another example of survival mode is what's going on in your life that is getting in the way of who it is and what it is that you want to be. Life can be tough. We like he would just be in mind numbing mode, you know.
Hmm.
I'm just going to look at my phone or I'm going to do this. I'm going to check out, so to speak, So there's so many examples of, and I guess maybe I'm too generic in the term, but that's a form of survival, right? That's no different doing the mind numbing. That's no different. That's the good old, that's a form of flight, right?
Hmm.
I'm going to get away from a situation that I'm afraid is going to make me uncomfortable or be dangerous. And so anyway, I'm not sure if I answered your question. To me, it's asking yourself, what's my big? Look, y'all, we were big old dreamers as kids, right? And then as we got older and we grew up and we started listening, our dream quotient, I call it, started getting knocked down and knocked down and knocked down and knocked down because of the quote unquote reality of life. And to me, that's the biggest problem. How do we tap into just the original? It's great to visualize and have a dream, but then to be able to get to the place inside of why can't I go after that? What
Right.
do I need to do to go after that? So I don't know if I answered your question, but
You did, and it's got my mind just going in a lot of different places right now because I see how this can be a problem. Maybe a problem's not the best word, but a challenge, if you will, for the adopted children.
yes,
How they could get stuck in survival mode and just always play the victim card, which is not good as you've illustrated. I can also see the application for adoptive parents.
absolutely.
And, I was thinking, personally speaking, going through some of the things that we've gone through, you get to that point where you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. So many things happen. And so you try to insulate yourself to protect yourself to survive, but you aren't thriving anymore because, well, what's going to happen next? You know, and so how you unpack that to escape it, you've given me a lot to think about. Prayer definitely comes into play, but it's something where you need to work on your mindset on a regular basis. And I use one of those tools that Johnny was taught in residential, where I go pen to paper, and that's how I try to escape that. But it's not easy, and it takes time. So I see it applying to both the parent and the child.
You know, yeah, as you're talking, that's really getting me. I would really love the opportunity to put some more thought to the aspect of the parents, and I'd love to come back at some point
Hmm.
and maybe we can expound upon that. It's something that I thought about, but see, you have a different perspective, and I think it's so valuable. You're just talking about an experience as the parent, and like you said, just waiting for another pin to drop or what. And that's the ultimate, right? The
Yeah.
ultimate survival. And so, boy, I think there's a lot of good stuff there, man. And if you think about it, how much we talk about the nurture versus nature. You'd mentioned it before we came on, but I would love for you and I, and maybe this, to bounce some ideas back and forth on creating some ideas and some concepts for adoptive parents on some nuts and bolts, and then turning into that modeling behavior.
Hmm. I've been doing a lot of introspection about this topic. I mean, and I hadn't put the words to it, stuck in survival mode. I hadn't put those words to it, but I've got another word that I've put to it that I won't share today because I'm still fleshing it out. But it's something that I'm looking for ways to help me escape it because in some respects I'm still there,
Mm-hmm.
even several years removed, but from the situations that you're aware of. And it's one of those things that's it's difficult to get there, but I've been seeing progress based upon some of the things that I've been doing. And I was up
Nice.
dark 30 this morning with my journal and
Yep.
just processing and touching those feelings. So yeah, I really want to would love to pursue that more with you in another time, and we can come back and talk about that some more because I think that's something that I can speak from the vantage point of an adoptive parent, and that's what I'm trying to give encouragement to adoptive parents to help them, you know, not only survive their journey but thrive in their journey.
That's
And
it.
that's two different things. You got to survive it, but you want to survive and thrive. And how can you come out on the other end of this a better person for the experience that you've been in?
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
and that's one thing when we first discussed, talking about this is I really focused in on the children, which obviously there's value there
Hmm.
and much needed. But, you know, actually this morning during my devotional time, I did feel I felt convicted. And I felt somewhat, I guess personally, a little bit not embarrassed, but like I was frustrated with myself that I hadn't looked at the parent side more in depth, right?
Hmm.
But felt super convicted that that I really feel like that needs to be, like you said, fleshed out. Um, that's interesting. This is
Yeah.
I'm you can I'm my brain is going 90 miles an hour right now, so I'm kind of thinking out loud, but I've been trying not to. But that's exciting. I think there's some good stuff there for us to bounce back and forth and work through.
Okay. Well, we'll wrap it up for this episode. And just as a teaser, promise the audience, we'll come back and talk about this more and however many episodes it takes. But I think it's something that's worth discussing. And hopefully, we've kind of started the conversation that adopted parents need to hear. So, as we wrap up, then I want to encourage adopted children not to play the victim card, to realize that there's so much life can afford them. And I'm glad that you have programs like Do Life Big. And can you tell us a little more about how they can reach out and contact you and learn more about this program you
Yeah,
have?
so I tell you, I have a Facebook page. That's the Do Life Big Project. It's you can look it up that way. I'm on Instagram. Look, I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I don't keep up with it the best, but I sure would. If anyone wants to reach out and you have questions or anything you want to share, reach out to me that way and let me know that you heard me rambling here with Mr. Tim. And but what I want to embrace and what I think everything starts is that a conversation, right? And
Mhm.
the more mouths going that are coming from a place of love and productivity, I think that's where the great things happen.
Right.
And so I'm would never act like I know everything. I am constantly looking to learn as well. So please reach out. And I'd love to get to know anybody and everybody out there. We can go back and forth that way, Tim.
Sure. I will have the links to your Facebook group and then your Instagram page in the show notes. So people can just click on those and connect with you that way. So again, thank you, Erich, for being here and sharing your wisdom with us on this topic. You've walked this walk with so many of these kids. And again, my son wouldn't be where he is today had it not been for people like you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate your continued friendship. I really do. You're a good man, and good men are good to have in your life. So thank you.
Well, you're an anchor of encouragement for me. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
The conversation didn't end after Erich and I said goodbye. I kept recording for several more minutes as we bounced ideas off of one another and agreed to circle back to this topic. Stay tuned for more. But for now, here are some of today's takeaways. Number 1, at its core, our brain is designed to keep us alive. And part of keeping us alive is to avoid pain, whether physical or emotional. We're wired to survive. Number 2, surviving is important, but there's more to life than just surviving. Number 3, survivor mode can lead to a victim mentality where you're at the will and whim of other people. Victims don't dream because there's no hope. Number 4, stuck in survivor mode can affect both adopted children and their parents. And finally, number 5, to break free of survivor mode, one needs to shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, from survivor to thriver. It's not just about making it through the day. It's about dreaming big, setting goals, and truly living. Please check the show notes out to learn more about Erich and his Do Life Big project. That's all for this episode. I want to thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, this is Tim, encouraging you to do what you can now. If this podcast has given you the courage and confidence to face storms in your life, the number one way you can thank me is to leave a written review on Apple Podcasts. Tell a friend about the show. Take a screenshot of this episode and share it in your Instagram stories and tag me at Tim Maudlin. You can also connect with me in my Facebook group, Anchors of Encouragement. So until next time, this is Tim encouraging you to do what you can now.